Weak start to the trading week. The Nifty breaks below the budget day low of 17,353 level. Sensex falls over 350 points. Financials buck the trend with the bank Nifty up over 0.5%.
Bajaj Auto skids 5% into the red as reports indicate the company has cut production by 25% across its export plants given weakness in markets like Nigeria. The company tells CNBC-TV18 production has been lower for all two-wheeler exporters in the past few months.
Paytm gains. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that Bharti Group was in talks with the company for a stake buy, but the deal fell through as Paytm management declined to give up management control, and the company says that it is focused on its organic growth journey.
Consumer companies strike a confident note. Indian hotels tell CNBC-TV18 that post-COVID recovery is driven by higher prices and therefore more profitable. Berger Paints expects double-digit volume growth in FY24. VIP tells us that growth is 20% higher than pre-COVID levels seen in FY20, while luxury watch retailer Ethos cites strong demand while guiding for 25% revenue growth in FY24.
Dr. Reddy's announces the acquisition of Main Pharma's US generic prescription product portfolio for $105 million. The portfolio includes 85 generic products, many of which are focused on women's health, and the stock trades down 2.5%. Hello and welcome to Business Lunch. I'm Nisha Podar, and with me as always is my co-anchor Pavitra Parekh. Pavitra, so a weak beginning to the trading week, and it got weaker as the day progressed. In fact, take a look at Nifty 50 at the moment. Let's look at the markets right now, and 128 points down on Nifty 50 and 17,336 levels. So yes, it is weakness that is really persisting in the market, but not so much when we talk about the financials. Bank Nifty, against all the weakness and the nervousness because of the various global cues, is still up over 0.5% at the moment. And in fact, if we really take a look at the contribution to Nifty 50, only the financials are up, and a couple of PSU stocks like NTPC and Power Grid are in the green apart from the financials. Mid-caps take the brunt a lot more, 1.3% down in trade, and there's no surprise that advanced decline ratio is heavily in favor of the declines today, Pavitra.
Oh, absolutely. And, level after level of the Nifty being broken on the downside, right? So we broke the 200-day moving average. We broke the budget day low. There has been a little bit of a recovery right now, but it's still a 125-point kind of cut that we are seeing. What's doing the worst, once again, is clearly the metals and techs. So take a look at the metal index. It's down over 3% just today. We've been talking about the kind of cut that it's seen for the year. It's over 22%. So a few of the larger names will be up for you, the likes of Tata Steel, Hindalco, also, of course, suffering the biggest cut. But even smaller names like JSPL, Hindustan Zinc, Hindustan Copper, all of these also seeing cuts across the board. And then you're seeing heavy selling in the IT space once again today. So that entire pack is in focus. The Adani Group also continues to suffer in trade. So that's what we're tracking in terms of market action. But let's now start by talking about some individual stocks which are doing, which are moving on either side in trade. Bajaj Auto is the top loser on the Nifty today. It's down over 5%. This is on news that it has cut production by 25% across its export plants. So Sonia is here to take us through all of the details there. Sonia?
Well, thanks a lot for that. This is a problem that is well known and documented, right? That the export markets are under pressure for most two-wheelers. And now, the production cuts have also come through. Now, Bajaj Auto reports indicate that the company will be taking a production cut as steep as 25% across its export plants because of the situation that's ongoing in Nigeria as well as in Egypt. Bajaj Auto could be cutting their production to around 250 to 270,000 units in March. This compares to almost 340,000 units on an average that they were producing in 9 months of FY23. We reached out to the management who said that this is not new information in the sense that most two-wheeler exporters are under pressure because of the export markets that are challenging, and the production cuts have been ongoing for a while now. In fact, Nomura put out a note where they are expecting the export wholesale numbers for Bajaj Auto to fall drastically in the month of February. The data will be out in a couple of days from now. A 45% year-on-year slide is what Nomura is forecasting. They say overall the two-wheeler industry wholesales will continue to remain weak. In fact, the volumes for the two-wheelers in February will be 28% down from the peak that we saw in Jan of 2018. So no recovery in two-wheelers, and the export piece continues to be under pressure. Back to you.
All right, Sonia, thanks a lot for taking us through all of the details there. But another important story that we're looking at is that sources are telling us that Bharti Group was in talks with Paytm for a stake buy, but the deal did fall through. Nisha has all of the details here. Nisha, apparently Paytm is not wanting to give up management control.
That's right, Pavitra. In fact, over the weekend, I've spoken to several sources who have a direct knowledge of the deal developments at both Paytm as well as Bharti. Now, what I did gather is that there was some interest from Bharti Group to really explore a deal talk with Paytm, and not just for Payments Bank, which is a common business between both the groups, Paytm as well as Bharti Group, but for the overall business, the parent company of Paytm. So there was an exploratory talk way back in Jan, and it did not go through. And at the moment, we gather that there is no transaction talk between Bharti Group as well as Paytm. Now, why did the deal talk didn't go through and it collapsed early in Jan? Well, it was because Paytm was not even keen to look at an option of a management control to be shifted as part of the transaction. And also Paytm management feels that the strategic alliance when it comes to the payment bank business between the two groups does not make as much sense in terms of alliance, because the model of both the businesses, one being digital and POS, are completely different. So therefore, those are the reasons why the deal talks did not continue. But there has been a speculation on Ant Group's 25% stake in the company, as well as SoftBank owning 13% stake. And remember, these investors, if they want to exit, will play a pivotal role in taking forward any deal transaction when it comes to Paytm. So at the moment, no talks is what we gather, and Paytm has stated to us that they are focused on strengthening the company through organic growth, and Bharti Enterprises, on the other hand, has also told us that they would decline to comment on any market speculation, Pavitra.
All right, Nisha, thanks a lot. This is an important story that we are tracking. But with that, let's also move on and bring you some opinion. We should not end up in a situation where rates have increased too much and economic growth engine has been thrown out of gear. That is the word coming in from KV Kamath. The financial sector veteran also discussed the impact of higher rates on the economy with Shireen. So let's listen into that conversation.
One would need to look at CPI or other indicators a little more, with more focus, as it were, to understand whether this is something that we can take a decision on. We do not want to end up in a situation where we raise interest rates and put an engine, the economic engine, which is now fine-tuned, put it out of gear. Getting it back in tune is going to take time. Say it very clearly that I have complete confidence in the steps taken by the central bank as the monetary policy authority and the central government. We need to go in sync with the West. That's all I'm saying. Infrastructure, I see no slowdown. In fact, I see a speeding up. Yeah, the single biggest risk I'll address first simply, and all along, has been the unpredictable oil price. But I think we now have an indication what is happening to oil price. We drive our own strength through not only the digital movement, but through exports of what I call knowledge services, which is not going to slow down, because the world will need that. So we are in a sweet spot. And in India's case, the headline, what has to be produced is put that infrastructure in place, whether it is roads, ports, airports, rail systems, whatever, airlines, whatever. That needs to go in. I don't think our growth story is going to derail on that account. What we need to make sure is that we nurture it properly.
And speaking on the Adani Group issue, well, KV Kamath says that there is no crisis of confidence in the India story. Listen in.
I don't think that any single group makes, or carves out the history of this nation. So I have, really speaking, no concern that overall India will continue on its path of progress at the pace we have outlined. And I don't see any loss of confidence in India.
All right, no crisis of confidence in India. But with that, we are going to get into a short break on the show. When we come back, we're going to bring you excerpts from our conversation with the IMF chief, Kristalina Georgieva. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back. Now, as the global political and economic stresses continue, Parikshit spoke to IMF chief Kristalina Georgieva about a whole host of topics, including fears of a global recession as well as the war in Ukraine. He started off the conversation by asking about the crypto universe and about laying the foundations for crypto regulation. So listen in.
What we recognize is that digital money is now part of the way the economy functions. We have to differentiate between central bank digital currencies that are backed by the state and stable coins and crypto assets that are privately issued. In that world of private issuance, there has to be more regulation. We now recognize that we have been a bit slow as a global community, and therefore the Financial Stability Board, the International Monetary Fund, Bank for International Settlement, we all have committed to work hard to present foundation for regulation. The IMF just days ago discussed this issue at our board, and what the conclusion is: first, crypto assets are not money. They cannot be accepted as a legal tender. Second, there has to be very strong push for regulation. And third, if regulation fails, so if we are slow to do it, then we should not take off the table banning those assets because they may create financial stability risk.
And finally, will the world be able to avoid a recession this year?
It looks like we will avoid recession. There will be countries that are in negative territory, but global recession is less likely. Why? 3 reasons. One, we were surprised by the resilience of labor markets in many economies, in the United States, in Europe, and the resilience of consumer spending. 2, we have been quite impressed by how quickly Europe managed to free itself from dependency on Russian oil and gas. Mother Nature helped. The winter was milder this year, but that allowed the European economies, many of them, to avoid recession. Not all of them, but many of them. And 3, China took a decision to open up, and that is creating a new impetus for growth in China. India is a bright spot on the global scene. Actually, India is contributing 15% of global growth this year. So thank you, India.
So finally, you're in India. Any recommendations for the Indian government to have a higher growth path?
What India can do more of is to continue on that path of structural reforms and to work even harder on more inclusiveness.
Right, and the war becomes the biggest threat. Everyone here has said this is the biggest threat to the global economy. Do you think that could create more supply shocks?
It is very uncertain how the war is going to evolve, and as long as this uncertainty is with us, it can make especially energy markets anxious.
All right, it's time to slip into a short breather on Business Lunch, but stay tuned as we get you the latest on Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia's. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch. A quick look at the market lost some bit of ground in the last few minutes of trade. In fact, the big dragger Reliance Industries has dipped a little more, along with SBI, which has been buoyant throughout but seen some bit of sell-off from the top. So at the moment, Bank Nifty is trying to regain its position of 0.65% gain, but dipped a slight bit. But keep an eye out on Adani Enterprises as well as ports, both at the low point of the trading session right now. Let's take you straight to the national development and a national story of interest. And this story comes as a major blow to the Aam Aadmi Party as Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia was arrested last evening after 8 hours of interrogation by the CBI, revolving around alleged irregularities in Delhi's excise policy. We have our colleague Abhimanyu joining us from outside the BJP headquarters, where AAP is protesting against the Delhi Deputy Chief Minister's arrest. Abhimanyu, what have you picked up so far, and how's the day looking like as far as the political activity is concerned?
Well, the political slugfest is continuing thick and fast between the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP. Barbs have been traded repeatedly after the arrest of Manish Sisodia. He's going to be produced before the court, and of course a round of arguments will take place from the CBI side. CBI till now has maintained that the first charge sheet, which was filed last year, after that too, Sisodia has been questioned. Before that, in October 22, when Sisodia was questioned, he has remained largely evasive, even when confronted with evidence based on which CBI has claiming that there is a need for custodial interrogation, and he has been arrested yesterday. So far, sources have indicated that the profit margin for retailers in the liquor policy issue was increased from 5% earlier to 12% in the liquor policy, which was introduced by the Delhi government and has now been scrapped. It has also been claimed that various accused businessmen were given favors and they were allowed to unduly benefit from the government policy. It has been indicated from sources that the Delhi government constituted a GOM to ignore the earlier recommendations given by an expert committee on the liquor policy and ignored several notes which were given, which were concealed later by the Delhi government. It remains to be seen what arguments will be given from Manish Sisodia's side, what defense will be taken, even as he and his party both are claiming that there is no wrongdoing which has been committed. Meanwhile, several other accused have been interrogated in this case. As many as 15 accused have been named so far by the CBI, which includes Manish Sisodia and 14 others. It remains to be seen whether any more arrests will be made by the CBI in this particular case, in which the investigation is still going on.
All right, Abhimanyu, thanks a lot for getting us the latest on Manish Sisodia's arrest. Of course, we'll come back to you because this is a developing story for any other information that you do pick up through the day. But with that, some more news that we're tracking. Assembly polls are underway in Meghalaya as well as Nagaland after nearly a month of intense campaigning. Nagaland Chief Minister cast his vote in the Kohima district. The state also witnessed a 35.76% voter turnout. This is up until 11 a.m. Meanwhile, in Meghalaya, we saw a voter turnout of 26.70%. This also until 11 a.m. this morning. Chief Minister also cast his vote from the south of Tura. The polling will close at 4 p.m. today, and the counting for both of the states will take place on the 2nd of March.
All right, on that note, completely out of time on this edition of Business Lunch from the entire team. Thanks so much for joining us. Mid-Cap Radar comes up next, so stay tuned for that.